Okay, let's go to this question. You're in Illinois. Your daughter's 4, ASD, not potty trained, semi-verbal, has an IEP, speech language OT, feeding therapy, currently in your district's preschool class with a class aide available. And I appreciate you doing the breakdown. One teacher, one aide, 20 children. We're going to cover that when I do my answer. She attends this half day with us pulling her out for the other half for private ABA. At ABA, she gets one-to-one support, and we love it. But as you know, as we as parents can't keep up the half-day schedule forever, and believe she can be successful in school in kindergarten with the right support. I completely agree, and we'll go into that. I just don't know how or when to approach this topic. When she starts kindergarten full day there next year, I know she will need a bathroom aide, a lunchroom aide for sure. But I also want support in the classroom because she is very inattentive and needs verbal redirection often. I want to educate myself on what I need to ask for, how far in advance to ask, what assessments or documents I need to complete, so I can be prepared and an effective advocate when I bring this topic up. Thank you. Okay. Number one, okay, let's go ahead and unpack all of this. Okay, starting with your breakdown of your current school year. Okay, your aide situation, 20 kids, one aide, one teacher. The teacher shouldn't be included ever in whether there's the proper amount of aide support in the classroom. The teacher is responsible for all IEPs. Now, I understand that it's a 20 kid preschool, which tells me that there's neurotypicals in there. So I would assume that there's neurotypicals. I would hope there is, because that's what the science says should be the combination. It should be like a 50-50 of neurotypically developing students with IEP students, so that they can benefit from each other. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and assume that that's the case. And so let's break it down to 10. There should be about 3 or 4 students per aide. So in that situation, they should have at least 3 aides to support that teacher in that classroom. Okay. That's just my thought. I mean, you might be able to get away with 2, but 1 definitely isn't enough in my viewpoint. Okay. I do not see how you could have that number of IEP students. Now, if Illinois is sort of running a similar program to what Alabama is, and that's like a lottery system type preschool, and she might be the only aide in there, because that sounds eerily similar to Alabama's first class preschools, to where the state funds these preschools. It's based upon a lottery system, and it's open for special education kids, which of course means that it's not discriminatory because they have just the same opportunity as anyone else to be selected to be in these classes. But at the same time, I still don't think for a preschool class 1 aide is enough. And especially if there are some IEP students in there, there should be additional aides in order for the child to truly get what they need, and for FAPE to be guaranteed, more guaranteed. You can't guarantee FAPE, okay? I can't say the word guaranteed. That's not really the standard, okay? But I'm just sort of saying you're hedging your bets that the child's going to make measurable progress if you have the right support in place, okay? So that's number 1. Number 2, and I do apologize, I'm having allergies right now. So the other thing is, can she be successful? Well, let me address the half day. A school system for a preschool child is responsible to make an offer of FAPE available for preschoolers. Once a child hits kindergarten, compulsory education, truancy comes into play, and they just have to provide a FAPE, okay? Because your child is assumed to be there because of compulsory education. Under preschool, they're not required to be there. It's optional. You need to negotiate with the parents. These services could be provided at home. They could be provided at a daycare, blah, blah, blah. Okay. But it is a school system's responsibility to thoroughly evaluate in order to understand the needs of the child and the child's diagnosis. And as a result of the diagnosis, understand the individual circumstances and the needs of the child. At that point, the school system's in a position to make an offering of FAPE. This is what we believe the child requires with regards to services and hours in order to make tangible, measurable progress. And in your particular situation, a half-day program with an IEP composing what? Because You are pulling your child out to take them to receive ABA, which is the only known treatment for autism currently. And so if that's the case, they're missing a huge component of what would compose your child's ability to receive a FAPE. And that is those ABA approaches, strategies, and therapies that are highly effective. I've got a child, a daughter, in fact, with autism, classic autism. Same situation we were in. She's 19 now, but when she was this age, 3, 4, 5, we did another year of preschool, frankly. Why is that we wanted to give her the best opportunity to integrate better. It depends on when the birth date is. Her birth date's in September, so she was the oldest in her kindergarten class, meaning that she turned 6 at the beginning, almost immediately. Maybe it was almost 7. But what I'm saying is we did another year of preschool just so that we could sit there and load up on those skills, because that's where preschool focuses on some of those classroom readiness skills, staying seated, attentiveness, bathroom readiness, those kind of things. Those are sort of preschool expectation type of environment. So I am not adverse to, and I recommend to many families, don't get caught up in the arbitrary nature of when school deadlines are, okay? Because it really gets some families in a lot of trouble because, they go off of this traditional mindset that, well, my child is going to be 5, so my child needs to start kindergarten. That's not written anywhere, guys. I mean, I guess it is, but I'm saying that when it comes to a true analysis of who your child is and where their developmental skills are, that your child may be 5, but are they developmentally 2? 1.5 in some areas, to where having the right preschool program, having another year to have maturation have its effect, because it will naturally for any child with developmental disabilities. Maturation will help with the progression in certain skills. Then you have another year of having that ABA be effective, more effective in teaching those skills. And then you have another year of exposure to neurotypicals, exposure to the expectations within the classroom. That enables your child to have even a greater chance of success in a kindergarten, general education kindergarten environment. Okay, so that would be one of my recommendations, is that you repeat another year of preschool and really front load that experience. I just don't really care about the arbitrary cutoffs of birth dates. You're going to find that if you start on a traditional path when your child is developmentally delayed, unless they rapidly make progress, then you're going to hit the realities of first grade, of second grade, of third grade. And if your child at those points, because of how our education system's set up and how they just absolutely swamp children with these expectations for reading, which I think is also artificially creating some specific learning disabilities, because we're just not acknowledging the science and what it tells us with regards to academic readiness and the importance of socialization and language development and its correlation over to reading and reading comprehension. The Finns in Finland, they figured it out. I mean, they don't even teach a lot of academics until the children are much later, 8, right around there. The focus of education prior to that point is socialization and language development. 2 things that we have largely antiseptically cleansed from our public schools with regards to that social interaction and really heavily hitting communication, because we're pushing reading and we're pushing math. And I think that that's the wrong approach, but that's me. I'm here to clean up the messes. They're creating messes for me to clean up, so it's just making us busier. I think it's stupid. But whatever, nobody listens to me. It's not like the hoities-toities in the education chairs, they just don't pay attention to the science. But understand that education science is not the same as the people that are preparing our next crop of teachers. Okay, those are 2 separate departments and features within our college and university systems, and they don't get along with each other. Okay. It's a power play. All right. Education science, I'm sorry, this was my hand. Education science and child development, what we should be doing is not correlating over to preparing our next crop of teachers in these education departments in education. Okay. But if you decide for her to go to kindergarten and integrate into a public education kindergarten, then yeah, I think it's beneficial to start having that discussion with relevant members of the IEP team even now. And I would loop in your special education director, administrator, in that discussion, about what is it that you guys believe would be necessary. I'm sure with your private ABA that they're doing either an ABLES assessment or a BB map. If they're not, they should. I think that would be a beneficial assessment to be able to present and give to the IEP team, and closer to the spring. And I also believe that it would be beneficial to request updated assessments in the area of speech language, OT, and then probably another developmental assessment, just in sort of the 5 global domain areas to see where it is that she's functioning. But at the same time, we presume competence for kindergarten, and I believe that every child should have an opportunity to be in a general education setting, okay? And that includes with support. Now, you mentioned bathroom aide and lunch aide and classroom aide. It just needs to be, you need to steer clear of grand declarations that my child requires a one-to-one designated aide with my child all day long. Because it scares the bejesus out of schools. And there's very few kids, in my professional opinion, that truly require one-to-one designated aides with them from drop-off to pickup, okay? And I'm not being unfair, guys. My kid's been going to public school since she was in kindergarten, all right? And we have always had more than a few aides trained in the same way in order to step in and seamlessly implement my daughter's behavior program and IEP program. Because you never know. You could lose an aide. They could be sick on one day, so forth and so on. And so in order for that not to disrupt my daughter's program, who is all about schedule, all about predictability, we didn't want to disrupt that. So the entire goal was to train multiple aides the same way so that we could have multiple people that could step into that role and provide her targeted support. And guys, that's the word you need to use when you're with your IEP team. Targeted support. Because if you go in there saying my child needs an aide, I can't tell you how many unnecessary complaints end up being created due to the just some miscommunication. It's just a miscommunication and the misapplication of the word aide. What does that mean? What do you mean by that? And the schools don't really do a good job, as far as members of the team, in really peeling back that onion and really asking the right questions of the parent as to what that intent. What does that mean? Okay, do you mean that the child should have one person with them from drop off to pickup? And some parents will go, yeah, that's exactly what my child needs. Not necessarily. Okay, because look, we have to also need to foster independence as much as feasible, because that's also where growth occurs. So a parent's got to be reasonable to a certain extent on the realities of what we're trying to do. Because within your home, your child isn't constantly with you 24/7. All right, because you got to also look at it within your home environment. Does your child have you next to them all the time doing everything for them? And the answer is no, guys. So be fair in the environment of the public education system. What you're looking for is an appropriate IEP program. You're looking for a scientifically peer-reviewed program, like a behavior program, a verbal behavior program, to sit there and that works according to your child's circumstances and needs, which is ASD. Okay, so with that program, with your IEP program, what you need, what you're looking for is targeted aide support. Okay, but if your child is being pulled and is working with the teacher one-to-one or in a very small group, then at that point they don't need an aide strapped to them because they're already working one-to-one with the teacher or in a very small group. Now, if your child's being pulled by the OT, they don't need an aide there. If your child's being pulled by the speech language pathologist, they don't need an aide there, guys. So you see where you don't need an aide all the time strapped to your child. And so that's what creates the confusion and a lot of hostility on an IEP team that's unnecessary. What you need to do and what I recommend is that you break down your child's schedule starting at the time that school starts at 8 and probably have a discussion in 30-minute increments on what your child is doing in those 30-minute increments. And that way, as a team, you can sit there and discuss where that aid support is required. And then if your child has additional needs, let's say with the feeding therapy, which, a lot of kids with ASD at that age have those needs, then yes, that would be targeted aid support. That would be an area where you can discuss that and an aid can be assigned. Same thing with bathroom needs, which is not uncommon for the public school, even within a general education kindergarten. Okay, because you can do trip training. It can happen at a multiple times at a certain time to sit there and have your child meet those goals of independent toileting. During times when there's a larger group, let's say a circle time or whatever they're doing, then some of the academic instruction, there can be a targeted aid support as well. But then every other opportunity can be discussed to where we're fostering independence. That's something my child can do without the assistance of an adult. Okay. And then have it crafted and explained in your IEP that way. It's not that difficult. But the data collection leading up, and that includes your private ABA, the data collection leading up to that annual IEP meeting in the spring to develop the kindergarten IEP is going to be absolutely critical. But I also don't think it hurts to do some updated developmental assessments, including speech language, including OT, because the last time they did in-house evaluations could have been when she first qualified. And if that's the case, then there's been a lot of change. Children, especially at that age, make rapid maturation changes between the ages of 3 and 5. So it's smart to sit there and have some of that stuff updated so that the team has a true understanding of where your child is currently functioning in order to really put together a good, meaningful IEP that is intended to provide a FAPE. Okay, so starting now, it's really a lot of stuff that starts to happen after the Christmas break. The stuff to think about now. Being on this page really helps because we have an entire catalog of videos. You just have to sort of swim through them. We also have the YouTube channel that, we take all of this, put it on YouTube, and then I bring it over to the Facebook page. But you can scroll through it. You can get additional information. And then we also have trainings. Advocates University. I'm about to start another very intense class, and we're going to start with those preschool years and that preschool transition to kindergarten. That's one of the key areas that I teach in the Advocates University Tier 1 course. And then we walk all the way through the law and how to apply it effectively, what a FAPE is, how to break down assessments and evaluation data, things like that. I highly recommend it. It's going to be worth its weight in gold for any parent, any advocate. The way we present the material is, in my viewpoint, superior to any other training course out there. But that's also because I have lived it as a parent, guys, ever since my child was 3 years old. She was our first case. That's what got me into this field of law. All right. And she's 19 now. So I have learned a lot as a parent and then as a practitioner of law, solely focusing on this area. And so I present it in a real world application way, to where, you know, it's one way to sit there and tell you what the structure of the law is. But if you don't know how to apply it in a day-to-day kind of way, it doesn't matter how smart you are. It doesn't matter how much law you know. You have to know how to interact with administration and the IEP team in order to get things done for your child.